Well, hello, my fellow sensitive people. My goodness, could any of you sit through the speech? Could any of you sit through the speech by President Trump on the war? Or was it so bad that you had to go and people that don't drink were breaking open bottles of scotch? What can I tell you? Some referred to it as the ramblings of a lunatic. That works. That works. So, what are we looking at? Are we looking at a mentally insane person with advanced dementia? Hello, loves. How are you, darlings? Good to see you here. Be sure and share, like, subscribe. I waited to record this after April 1st, and if so that people would, take me a little bit seriously. And I want to wish happy Passover if you are celebrating. I have broken out the shmura matzah. Shmura matzah is the one that's made with the whole wheat. Delish. It's round. Shmura is like a super kosher, uber kosher. I just like it because it tastes a little bit more natural than the white. I don't like the white. I don't like the white Manischewitz square. No, it's got no flavor. I like the round shmura. It's my thing. It's my jam. So excuse me. I did partake of the shmura matzah with cream cheese, tomato, sliced purple onion, and cucumber. Yeah, that is the end all be all as far as sandwiches go. So, excuse me, let me clear my throat. Okay. What's going on? I had a dream. I want to talk about a dream I had. It was an unusual dream, and in the dream, Pete Hegseth had resigned. Pete Hegseth was asked to resign, and another man was asked to resign at the same exact time. So the dream showed the resignation of two men. I saw two men resigning, Hegseth and one other man. And I think I saw congressional hearings. I think at one point in the dream, I saw various different people like Pam Bondi having to give testimony before Congress. So that was really interesting to me. I thought it might be nice to break open the cards. I do have the one tarot out. I do love this deck put out by Lena Rodriguez and Sienna Rose. Check it out if you do like this deck. We're going to do the empath prayer. Take a look at what is going excuse me. My goodness, I haven't spoken yet today. Got to clear that shmura matzah. I'm curious about what we're looking at. How long will the economy continue to be in shambles? Let's just take a look at Trump's overall health, because am I the only one that felt like he looked absolutely terrible? And he's using a very strange bronzer that is really dark. And his hair looked strange. It was flat on top. I mean, he just looked very strange at this press conference or this speech he gave. So I want to take a look at that and find out if we can get any information on Trump's health, if we can access any private, we'll see what we can do here in terms of his medical records. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and do the empath prayer. Great to see you. If you could like, share, and subscribe, I'd be forever grateful. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together collectively we say, Amen. All right, this first throw, just going to take a look at Trump's health. I am very curious about this. I don't know what's going to come of this, but he just didn't look right. He never looks right, Dr. Anderson. That's true. But I was really struck. I mean, like, I had to take a moment. Whoa. This is the worst I think I've seen him in a while. And that just kind of, was a little weird. So we're trying to access documents, information. I'm going to do a little remote viewing on Donald Trump's health. And we're going to try and see if we can get access to put ourselves in his shoes, any personal thoughts he may be having. I feel when I go into the energy of Donald Trump, the first thing I feel is I feel like I am having a health crisis. And it's interesting that, excuse me, the first card we're seeing, sorry about the light, let me change the light here. There we go, that makes it better. We can see the first one is the Page of Cups, and the Page of Cups is associated with health and healing. It is the Archangel Raphael that is associated with issues of health concerns. What's interesting here is that it feels to me as if Donald Trump is trying to ensure the American people that everything is great in the United States, that the economy is great, but I feel that we are very close to a crash. The government is in crisis. The country is insolvent. We are broke. We've got more debt than we know what to do with because people didn't want to pay their taxes or because they gave too many deals to their friends. And I keep seeing the stock market crashing. You can see here this tower moving into the karma card. Now, another way of interpreting this is that Donald Trump is having a health crisis because, again, the Page of Cups is associated with messages of healing. Pages can be children, and they can be messengers. Messengers are also angels. In the Hebrew word for angel, it's angels are malachim, the angels, the messengers, right? So a message from the angels regarding health, a crash is coming. I feel when I go into this energy that Trump has a fear of the health of the country and the fact that he is not going to be able to avert or prevent a crash. That's what it feels like to me, that there's a crash coming and that Trump knows it and that it is imminent and he cannot control for it. That is what it feels like to me. On the other side, it looks to me like he's in a health crash. He's in a health crisis. Where he's at right now, the Four of Pentacles, also not a good card because this is a card that's about frugality and economic concerns, right? So when we think about the Four of Pentacles, it's known as the Miser's card. Not good to have a Miser's card here when you're also seeing a card that has to do a card like the Tower, because the Tower is about having a possible, we're asking about him. A tower could be an economic crash. The fact that Four of Pentacles stands in his first house could be a retraction to pull back on the economy, or it's also a frugality card, but it's also called the Miser's card, where the individual is holding on to the coin. Interesting. The crossing card for him, power. He is having issues with power. He's having issues with control. We now see Democrats are gaining support, even in his districts in Florida, right? So Florida, Texas, we're starting to see, even in Tennessee, as more and more Democrats move into the suburbs around Nashville, that energy is changing around Nashville, right? So it's not just Nashville, it's now the suburbs of Nashville. This growing blue, it's a beautiful color, blue. I do so love the color blue. But you have this crossing of magicians, so it feels like there could be some kind of power struggle also that's beginning to happen in the GOP, as if people close to Trump no longer have confidence in him. That's interesting to me. I keep feeling when I go into this energy that he's starting to have conflicts with Rubio, but that they are both on the same page regarding taking out Iranian leadership. We can talk a little bit about that if you want to, but suffice to say that the president of Iran is a moderate and will likely build a new government with the incoming Shah. That's probably what's going to happen, because he's a moderate, he's a liberal, he was going to resign, then people asked him not to resign, stick around, you may be part of the new government. And that's probably what's going to happen. The big problem now in the Middle East is Qatar. And we can talk about that also later. Qatar has poured $20 billion into education in the United States. It's an incredibly horrible country in terms of human rights, rights for women. I think you can still be charged for witchcraft there. So don't read Al Jazeera. We don't need to be getting our news from people who believe in witchcraft and stoning people for adultery, right? So that is another thing we're starting to get concerned with. We're seeing really big amounts of money from foreign governments like Qatar, with horrible human rights records, being poured into primary education and also into both political parties. And that's not good for democracy. That's not good for American democracy. So there is this crossing card that's coming up about Trump and power, which is interesting. Above him is the 10 of Pentacles. He's very aware of his legacy. He's very aware of his legacy. What am I leaving behind? 10 of Pentacles is what we inherit. What he will pass down to the next generation is something also to think about when you look at this card chart. He thinks about it all the time, wanting to have his name on our money, wanting to have his name on the Kennedy Center, wanting to have his name on things. So 10 of Pentacles would indicate that he is very aware of his legacy and wanting to have that legacy live on. This is something that also concerns me here. You can see the Moon card is moving into third position. And the reason that concerns me is because the Moon card is lunacy, and it can be a sign of being spaced out, not totally in your right mind. It's howling at the moon or craziness, and it is what he sits in or marinates in. The other thing that you can look at here is that the insanity or the lunacy has a relationship with his inheritance. We talk about the 10 of Pentacles as the inheritance card, and that means you inherit the good and the bad, including genetics. For example, if he had a father who had some kind of mental health problem or alcoholism, a drug problem, right? All the kids either had alcoholism or drug problems, right? Popping pills like benzos that make you feel drunk without you having to drink, right? And then you can say you're sober, right? You're just taking a prescription from your doctor, right? And then you never go to jail or get charged with being a drug addict because you're getting it prescribed by your doctor. So instead of being doctors, now doctors have become drug pushers, right? So at that point, you're no longer a doctor, you're a drug pusher, which is why I'm happy to be a naturopathic doctor, right? So I'm a medical intuitive. And I started off being able to see and feel things when people were off. And so I went to medical school so I could tell people what was going on, right? To use my intuition in ways that were ultimately going to help people. But this is curious to me because we have this juxtaposition, this relationship between the third and fourth house that would indicate lunacy associated with his inheritance. And that is curious to me. What he's coming out of in his past placement is death. I don't think he can come back from this. I don't think that Donald Trump can come back from this in the sense that whatever has happened with his ratings, I know right now he has a rating of about 39% popularity according to the New York Times polls. I'm sorry, the phone does whatever it wants. It zooms in when I don't want it to. I'm going to have to try and fix that. I don't know how. But he has the death card. He's coming out of the death card as if to say that he's not going to be able to come back from this. And then he's entering into the Emperor. The Emperor is the presidency. That I would read that as the presidency. It just feels to me like he's alone. It just feels to me like he's just a crazy man sitting in a chair as the president, but I don't get the support from this. I don't get support here. I just don't. And I keep getting that Rubio is his nemesis. That Rubio and Trump agree on certain things internationally, like taking down Cuba. So for his own personal reasons, Rubio has made a deal with his president. But it's for his own personal reasons. And it is a very pragmatic view of Trump. Trump is going to do the things that Rubio wants, like taking out Iran. Now we have to do Qatar next, right? We don't want to have $20 billion from a foreign government putting people, that's terrifying, right? But I feel that it's very pragmatic. As long as Rubio can get what he wants from this guy, Rubio will tolerate him. Here it is again, the Nine of Wands. This is an interesting card. This card is somebody who's almost agoraphobic or afraid of the outside world. They feel cornered. This is a card that comes up a lot for Donald Trump. It's a card that makes me feel that he is afraid that he will be put away. He was terrified of his father. So was Fred Jr. Fred Sr. was a tyrant. He was a cruel tyrant, and little Donnie learned to survive by going along with whatever the tyrant said. It's interesting. I did a remote once. I went into kind of the energy of who it was to be little Donnie. and Fred Sr. was attacking the children, Fred Jr. or one of the other children. And I immediately felt as Trump like I was going to piggyback with my father so that I could get into his good graces. Yeah, what's your problem? So if Fred Jr. was getting attacked, you're screwed up. Yeah, you're screwed up. If he became, I'm going to piggyback. And it was a way to survive and stay safe as a child. So you can imagine the mental strain that must have been on Donald Trump when he saw his father drug off to Bedlam, the final stages of mental insanity, when Fred Sr. would come down to, they created a fake office for him, and he would shuffle papers as if he was still at work, he would put on his suit but forget to put his pants on, right? So eventually it got to a point where sometimes in those cases, a person can actually be physically dangerous, right? They may strike out at family members, particularly if they were abusive or violent in the past. And so you have to think in terms of the safety of your family members. And there came a point when Fred had to be basically taken in. He had to be brought in and controlled and contained because he couldn't care for himself, neither could anybody else, but he possibly was dangerous. You know, the crazy person, the old man who starts punching or hitting. And so at that point, you have to put hands on them, and you have to control and contain them, and you have to put them into a facility. And I can only imagine the psychological trauma that had on little Donald Trump, to see this once powerful person that he was afraid of wounded, crazy, mumbling to himself, completely broken, and drugged off to Italy. And that's kind of what you see here with the Nine of Wands. You see that same energy of feeling cornered, paranoid, thinking others are out to get you, you're holed up in your home, wounded and ready to fight. This is not good. You know, this is not, I'll be honest with you, these cards are not good. You've got that lunacy card. You've got something to do with his inheritance. You've got death of the presidency, that juxtaposition between the 5th and 6th house. And then you've got, it's really not good at all. You've also got this tower being his karma, which I think would scare the hell out of me if we're facing the tower. It looks to me as if the whole country is falling apart, and you have a madman sitting in the presidency seat and growing fear that he will be taken away. This is just terrifying to me. I mean, as him, when I put myself in the, I just feel terrified that what happened to my father will happen to me. Interesting. And then his house of opposition, the courts. You know, the 8th house is the person you're having issues with. It's the other. Often the person that you're having a conflict with. Sometimes it can be the love of your life. You know, 9 times out of 10, when I'm giving a reading to a young person, they want to know about love or somebody that they are interested in. That person usually falls in the 8th house, because why didn't he call? Or does he love me? You know, and so you're always looking to that 8th house to find out what's going on in the house of opposition. But in the house of opposition here, we have the judgment and the courts. And that tells me, if you look over here at this magician card, that's power, this power struggle, right? This power struggle where he is up against issues of power, somebody or something having power over him. And here we have this judgment coming in, which leads me to think that it has something to do with judges in the courts, that something is going to happen or a series of things are going to happen on a legal issue with our courts that becomes a power struggle for Trump. Also, another way of interpreting it is that he's losing his judgment. You know, if we're talking about lunacy, if we're talking about inherited dementia, then we could be talking about somebody who is losing his ability to have judgment, and that could be quite terrifying if you are the person that's going through this. Yeah. His hope and fear is the Chariot or the race or the competition. So probably he's thinking a lot about the various different elections that are going on and whether or not he's going to be able to survive it all. Because the Chariot, it can be an actual political race. It's a card that many readers use. If you're doing a political tarot and you see the Chariot is a race, a race to the finish. He is afraid that he's going to be slaughtered in the midterms. Yeah. Being controlled by the judges, and also a fear of the Chariot. Yeah. A fear of those races and the fact that he's being slaughtered. And, the Democrats are doing quite well, both at a local level, but also at the federal level. A lot of Republicans are not even showing up to vote. And, the only way that they can take control of the House right now, even before the November elections, is if every single Republican shows up to vote, and every single Republican and votes with the Republicans, right? They all have to agree. So they have to get everybody there, and they have to get everyone to agree. And it's just not happening. Not when you have 2 or 3, when you're only ahead 2 or 3 seats. People get sick. People, people side with the Democrats. So he's already become lame duck. Will they approve if this war continues? He's going to have some problems. Final outcome. 4 of Wands. There's a new beginning for Donald Trump starting this April. The 4th month. Remember, we read Wands as months. And the 4th month is the month of April. It's also new beginnings and building a new foundation. It can be something is changing in April. It said that the war in Iran, for example, is probably going to wind down. They will probably get a deal with the president of Iran, who's a liberal, he's a moderate, who really wants everybody. He was spared from assassination attempt. I think he was mildly wounded. I think he's a plant. And I think there are a lot of people inside the IRGC that are working with Mossad. And so it's very likely that they will not completely dismantle the government, but that they will keep the current president, who's a liberal, because they've kind of set it up as a soft coup, take out the lunatics from the IRGC, the Iranian Guard, and bring in the Shah. That's probably what's going to happen. But there's some new change happening here in April. I'll to be honest with you, I'm a compassionate person. I'm a doctor. I worry about his health, even if I don't like his politics. Look at this again. We have this grieving here. Very interesting. 5 of Cups. I decided to do a clarification. He's depressed. This guy suffers from depression. It's a chronic depression. His heyday was the 80s and 90s, right? He had all these beautiful girls, some of them against their will, right? We'll just leave that for now. He hung out at the clubs because he wanted to party. That's why they all collapsed, because he didn't want to work. He wanted to party and hang out with girls at the clubs he owned, right? But this is somebody who suffers from depression. You definitely get the impression that this is a guy who's got issues with depression, because 5 of Cups is someone who grieves what they've lost and has a real hard time seeing what remains. And that's interesting. That's interesting. In his house of opposition, issues with his judgment and issues possibly with the judges. Six of Wands is a victory card. It means that the other will be victorious in the next 6 months. So let's go ahead and have that conversation. We're now in April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Elections are November 6th, 4th, sometime around then, right? So we're now in April. So yeah, that would be, it's a bloodbath. It's probably going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be, Tuesday, the 2nd of November, hold on a second. I'm sorry. I want to get these dates right for you. No, I didn't have that quite right. Okay. It's going to be, excuse me, the 3rd, Tuesday, the 3rd. So we're talking about within 6 months. It's already over. Early voting. Yeah. So Six of Wands is a victory card. And again, I read wands as months. You don't have to. That's my tradition. You may look at it as a season if you're an old-time witch. I totally get it, because I think you get 2 tree rings a year. So some read it as 6 months. Some people read it as a season. It's up to you. But wands have always traditionally been the timekeepers. Yeah, so, but I read them as months. That's just my tradition. So April, we see major changes. I definitely think his mental health is declining. I think he suffers from depression. I think that his house of opposition is going to be victorious. I think he's going to be stopped with the judges. Particularly the judges are clamping down on him. His hope and his fear. Two-faced rhinos. That's how he would say, these rhinos. He is terrified of Republicans going across the aisle and making deals with the Democrats to take him out. Because lovers is cooperation. And cooperation with the Chariot is what he fears. That they will turn on him and that they will join the house of opposition. This is his biggest fear, that he will lose. You can see my cat there. You see her eyes over there? I love my cat so much. What an angel. I love my cat. But listen, this Chariot with this lovers, that is really bad for him. What he fears is that it won't even matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or not. He's got a third. His support right now is at 39%. He suckaroos. It's a handful of cult followers, and that is it. So final outcome is the Star. Yeah, so Star over April. I think they will let him finish this military action. I'm thinking that it was necessary to take out Iran. Everybody agreed. It was kind of a collective decision by many of the countries in the Middle East. Ballistic missiles are being fired on United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. They fear he's a madman. People are getting killed. It's not just Israel's war. It's control of the Strait. It's money being used to build ballistic missiles that can fire on Europe. These are terrifying missiles. Right now, Israel's being bombed, but so is the rest of the Middle East. Hezbollah proxy army is attacking from the north. Houthi. They're also arming Somali pirates, giving them weapons to attack ships going in and out of the strait. So it was something that the world collectively knew they were going to have to do something about Iran. And I think they will allow him to complete this. I think that they're not going to have a major turnaround on this president while we are at war. But given the cards, given the way these cards are set up, he's in trouble. He's in some, I just think he's headed towards, I think there's going to be an economic crash. I think we're looking at a stock market crash, but this is more than that. This is a health crisis. Look at that. That's Raphael with a health crisis, the tower. I love these cards. Great job to Dr. Lena Rodriguez and Sienna Rose. They both did a fantastic job. I just adore these cards. The One Tarot, if you want to pick it up on Amazon. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I see. Good things happening in April. Good things happening in April. I think we probably will see them winding down the conflict with some kind of a hybrid integration between the old government and bringing in the Shah to moderate the existing government, because the hardliners have been are being taken out. That's probably what's going to happen. They don't want to completely dismantle the government. They have to have some functioning parts of the government, right? So, and the Shah has said that. Yeah, so that's what I see. I don't see Hegseth staying. It's really weird. I saw him having to leave, and then there was this other guy as well, and I couldn't see who that was, or if I did, I don't remember. Hegseth, I'll just do 4 cards. I saw him leaving. Lack of confidence with him leading the Department of War. The Sun going into victory. His house of opposition is death. There it is again. This is like going into war. 6 of Wands, marching into victory. The Sun. You know, he's got all that go, go, go. The prize, the money. Kind of reminds me of going into battle as the Crusades and then bringing the gold and the jewels back to the crown, you know, or the sinking of the Spanish Armada and bringing the gold back to Queen Elizabeth. It has that kind of feel to it. You can see that Ace of Pentacles there. There it is again. Knight of Wands is the fire horse, and it's a war card. 7 of Swords is a thief's card. I think he's leaving, and I think it's very, very likely that he could be paid to leave or skip out before charges. Take the money and run, you know, because of this. Yeah. He's one of those people that will be making a ton of money off of this administration. Yeah. All right, my loves. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you'd like to have a reading, please find the information below this video. If you need a medical consult as well, you can book medical consults. I do herbal remedies and treatments for people. I am a medical intuitive, Vedic astrologer, and reader. So yeah, I would love to work with you. And you can find, again, all that information in the description of this video, how to contact, book, etc. All right, we're out of here. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We will see you next time. Thank you, everyone, for all your love and support. Oops, went the wrong way there. Thank you all for the love and support of this channel, and we'll see you next time. Be well, everyone. Take care. Bye.